voice. Lovely, thank you. Okay, so even if I don't talk much more about the results cone today, keep that model in mind throughout everything else, because we're kind of doing this as a bit of a layered. We'll do one bit of learning, we'll add something else, we'll add something else, we'll add something else, we'll add something else. And okay, so today we're going to get into the detail of creating a psychologically safe environment. All of this comes from neuroscience, and neuroscience focuses on our brain and our brain's impact on our behavior and our cognitive functions, our thinking functions. So you will have all watched and read the materials. I know they were all a little bit different, maybe, in terms of the quality and the content. So what I want to do today is not go through the content again, but to take what we know from reading and the watching and try to make sense of it. So we're going to figure out how do we apply that knowledge to our own individual conversations. And the first thing I want to do is just to get you to reflect back on that new information that I've shared with you. Now, some of you might be new, it might not be totally new. It's either new or a reminder. I started to ask you to do that with some of the self-reflection questions that I asked you to do. But what I want to do now is I'm going to break you into some smaller groups so that you can share your reflections and hear other people's reflections again. This is going to help me just hear some different perspectives on the materials, different thoughts and ideas. It's all going to help shape your understanding of the materials. The posh word for this is reflective observation. And that's when we get people to think about what they've just learned or experienced. Important to verbalise it, to talk about it and discuss with others. So I'm going to use the magic in a minute to put you into breakout rooms. And there's just 3 things that I want you to think about. And I will put this into the chat function as well. Because if you're like me, you don't remember everything. What struck you about the models? Just what struck you? What came into your mind? Oh, what did it make you think? What did you learn from the models? Maybe about yourself or your actions or about other people? And was there anything that you liked or disliked? Now, I'm not saying you must answer all of those 3 questions, but use those questions just to form the conversation with amongst your group. I will put those 3 questions in the chat so you get a bit of something to follow. I'm just going to give you 10 minutes. What I'm going to ask you to do is at least one person in the group just to jot down some notes and just be prepared to share your thoughts back with everybody else in the wider group. So this is just no right or wrong answers. Some self-reflection on what did you learn, what did the models make you think about, and to discuss that with other people. So we have got groups. Let me set up the breakout rooms. This is the one thing I can't do easily in advance. So we put you into automatically. I'm going to hit the go button in a minute. You'll go into your breakout rooms, 10 minutes, and as before, I'll bring you back in to the wider group after 10 minutes. So, see you all soon. Ding, 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 ding. Everybody's going. Now, go to the chat function. Everybody just pings back in again.
Thank you, Lester.
You're welcome.
Right, okay. I hope that went well. Let's just hear back from you then, please. Can you just share with us just some of the main topics, the main parts of your conversation, just so we can share with everybody else. Really don't mind which group would like to go first.
Should I go first then for our group?
Thank you, Mitra.
You're welcome. So we had in our group Katie and, oh gosh, I've forgotten all the names now. This is a real occupational hazard for me. I'm so sorry, ladies, but I had the most amazing ladies in my group, I have to say. Anyway, so in our group, we talked about what struck us was the fact that we all focused on the profile, as human beings naturally do. And we focused on, you know, kind of all the things, the scores as they come out. It's natural instinct to do that. We talked about the ones where, in particular, for myself, and I don't want to share the others sort of content, but for myself, it was relatedness, and was out of all of the roles, the scores, the scale for relatedness was much lower than others, and I put that down to the way I work and the type of work I do that doesn't allow me to really build deep relationships because I'm on projects. And more importantly, what we kind of reached in terms of conclusion was that actually we have over time, because we're experienced and, you know, we live and breathe the stuff, and over time we've learned to understand and recognize and be aware of what our, you know, areas of kind of strengths are and things that we want to work on a little bit more. And also that recognize that it's okay. So we learn these things about ourselves and we recognize that it is okay. What's really important is to be able to help others understand why we do this, why we behave this way, and you know, how we come across, and all those sorts of things. And in terms of things that we did, you know, in terms of disliking anything, there wasn't anything we disliked. We really liked the combination of theory, the sort of scientific evidence around the SCARF model, how it all connected, the articles. I particularly like the graphic facilitation video. That's kind of, you know, really simple for me because that's how my brain works. It's pictures are worth 1,000 words, and that combined with a really good explanation was really good. I think I've done it justice, ladies. Shout up if I haven't.
Very good.
Right, so that sounds like quite a bit of self-reflection that was going on in your conversation then, and you know, say, oh gosh, yes, that's me, that's not me, I can see why, and going a step further and almost kind of explaining why that might explain some of your career choices. So excellent, thank you. Okay, and the next group, any group would like to go next?
I'll go next.
Thanks.
I'll pick it up. So I had Joy and Christopher in my group. well, our group. And yeah, it was, we all did the self-assessment, so we just talked through the results of that, and Joy had an interesting result where the highest part on hers was fairness, which says a business, well, as a career, you should look at being in HR. So she's already achieved that bit. So it seems to be somewhat accurate anyway, off the bat. But yeah, so really we just discussed about the SCARF model and a bit more in detail with how it works with different people, you know, managers and employees and stuff like that. And like Joy raised, like it's a good, quick, condensed guide, particularly on like the article that you Ray gave us, where it's like ways to encourage conversation, ways to like avoid in conversation. So just having that really quick guide is quite useful just before having like a difficult conversation with someone. You know, it's very easy to just look at that and go, okay, yeah, got to make sure I just do this, really, you know, refresh in your mind or what SCARF is. Yeah, okay, go through that. You know, it's just a way of collecting all those thoughts together and being able to, you know, visualize do's and don'ts, essentially. You know, everyone can do that quite quickly and easily before conversations. And the other point we raised is it's quite, while it's interesting from our perspective to look at this as how to communicate with different, how to communicate and what's good and what's bad, it's really based on the individual rather than us. So it's the target of the communication. So, and with that note, I sort of feel like it's a lot similar to like color profiling. So how do people prefer to get how do they prefer to be communicated to? So while in SCARF you have stuff like autonomy and fairness and stuff like that, that might mean absolutely nothing to some people because all they want to do all day is, you know, they don't want autonomy. While it's useful, this is sort of one of the negative points for me personally. It was like one size fits all. It's great us learning which ways to communicate, but unless that's applied to unless you know how that person wants to be communicated to, then it doesn't work. You know, you might be all happy, all go lucky against someone, and they don't want that. They want a serious conversation about, you know, their actual life choices or something like that. You know, so that's really where our conversation went down that sort of rabbit hole. But it was good. It was good. Hopefully I've sort of did all right with that, guys.
Yeah, look, Chris is giving you a thumbs up there. That and Joy as well. Yeah, that's such a good point. Obviously, there's two people in any conversation, isn't there? And knowing a bit more about yourself and maybe what threats can trigger you, you also need to know about the other person as well. And although you might think, I mean, I over the years have now realised that status and autonomy are two really important things to me. Good job I worked for myself, because for years I kind of described it as, oh, I don't like following rules, do I? No, I just like to have autonomy and be able to make decisions. And when I can't make decisions, I actually feel a bit threatened and under pressure. But it could be something quite different for other people. So, Mitra, you said that one of your lowest scores was around relatedness. So actually, it's not hugely important for you to feel part of a team and to feel connected to people. So if we do put you in a standalone role, that's actually not a major problem. But for me, I really do like to feel connected, and I can, without that relatedness, can feel a bit isolated and threatened, really. But such a good point, Lester. It's not just about how this relates to you. It's trying to understand the other person and what social domains could be triggered more easily in those people, and what social domains are more important to them. Anyway, very good. Thank you. Two more groups to go, I think. Who would like to go next? Does anybody? Okay. Jess, thank you.
Okay, so I was with Sean and Tracy. We only Sean had seen SCARF out of the three of us, and we're all aware of the fight or flight. But what we liked about it was that it was reflective of behaviours within people as well. And something that Sean said that really resonated with her was that managers accidentally create a threat. And with me as well, that made me think about me and my team and things I've probably done in the past with very good intention, but probably not managed very well actually when looking back at it. So that was really interesting, and how people are reacting right now as well, given the situation that we're all in, and how people are feeling will have actual physical responses as well.
Mm-hmm.
And how we need to be mindful of that, and basically having the consciousness to think about all of these things before having a meeting or a conversation, and this can be applied to all aspects of our life, not just difficult conversations, but to everything we do with not just colleagues but friends, family, everyone.
Yeah. Oh wow, really broad but detailed discussion as well, by the sounds of it. That's brilliant, thank you. And the last group, I can't find who's the last.
Yeah, it was myself, Kate Deacon, and Maria. So yeah, well, I think we all, I think we had some knowledge of the scarf previously. I think by and large, I think we all agree it was fairly accurate and fairly reflective of ourselves. There was a comment about it's quite a quick assessment. I think, you know, maybe we were expecting it to take longer to actually get that level of information back out. We spent a bit of time actually chatting about or referencing it back to the cone diagram that you use. And I think we might have worked out that obviously that cone diagram is quite important. So next time it comes on the screen, we'll read it properly. For me, I suppose I was quite surprised with the like I said, I think we mentioned it. I think Lester maybe mentioned it, you know, about the overlap between status, particularly for me, like between status and autonomy. I was quite expected to think sort of quite separated out, but I was quite taken with the grey areas that exist between the boundaries, shall we say. Yeah, we finished up talking about the cartoon, the animation. I think we've all come across sort of like fight or flight, but actually freeze is quite an interesting concept to throw into that mix as well. I think we recognise that in all of us. So I think I've covered everything, hopefully. And the silence is encouraged.
Yeah. This is it's just topical. It's just something I just saw. It was this morning, to be fair, that I thought illustrated or potentially illustrated all of those models very nicely. I'm not political. I'm taking no sides. But if anybody watches the interview that Dominic Cummings did yesterday afternoon, you don't have to kind of listen to what he said, but just watch I suppose how he says things and his body language. If there was ever somebody that was really under threat there, and if he could, I'm sure he would run away, but he couldn't fight, flight, or he was stuck there. I just found that so interesting. I'm taking no sides as whether he did anything right or wrong, or whether the reporters are being fair or not, but I watched a YouTube this morning. Someone had just done a little montage that just focused on Dominic's responses and how he was talking, what he was saying, his body language, his legs that were wrapping around him, writing down. I thought it was fascinating to really see in action, probably the scarf model being activated, and then his behavioural responses. Okay, well, that sounds like each of those models have given you something, some of the things that you were familiar with, some you were less familiar with, and already the discussion started on me, you know, or us as individuals, and what does it mean? Because that's where I wanted to take us to in a little bit more detail now, because knowing how we respond when we are threatened is really important. And I know the word threatened feels quite strong, but I think as we learned from some of those videos, our brain doesn't know the difference between what David Rock calls a social threat and a physical threat. Our brain doesn't know the difference, and it responds in exactly the same way. So although we're not under threat in organisations these days from hopefully not attack or something physical, our brain still responds in that same way. And that's where the kind of the fight, flight, and freeze comes in. But if we can figure out what triggers us and then what our behavior looks like, we can start to manage that. And that is going to be a different session for us. But I just want to dive into a little bit of a detail so we can increase our own kind of self-awareness. I'm going to put you into pairs in a minute. And I'd just like to talk about 2 points in your pairs. A little bit about what social domains you think triggers you the most. Now, it could be 1, it could be all 5. That, I think, as Lester pointed out, is the joy of we are all different. But have to figure out, are there any social domains? And that self-assessment could have raised your awareness, or you might think, nope, that's a load of rubbish. What are the social domains that trigger you? And when you are triggered, what's your behavioural response? So what do you do? How do you act? Again, I'll put those 2 things in the chat in a minute once I've sent you off. Because we're doing a little bit more of, I suppose, a more personal, intimate sharing, I'm going to put you into pairs rather than into larger groups. So you can be as open or as non-open as you want to. Just about 6 minutes to have this discussion. What do you think of the social domains that trigger you the most, and what do you look like when you are triggered, when you're under pressure? So I'm just going to do the little magic with the breakout rooms and put you into 6. I think that should be exactly for us. Right, I'll send you off. Just a quick 5 minutes. What are the things that trigger you the most from a social domain perspective, and what does your behaviour look like when you're feeling triggered? Right, see you soon. Everyone's coming back. So I'm hoping you can see a whiteboard right now.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Do you just want to write on the whiteboard your fight, freeze, your behavioural responses? You don't need to say who you are. Let's just share when we're under pressure, when we're feeling threatened in one of those 5 social domains, what's the behaviour or the feelings? How do we respond? Just kind of share on there. Try not to all go to the top left-hand corner first. So someone goes quiet. Someone feels frustrated. Oh, God, there's a big fight at the bottom. Gets defensive. Jumping a cord. Someone gets irritated. I can move around so we can see. Someone gets withdrawn and bottles up. Physically sick. And then we've got anxious, I think. That's anxious when pressured. Oh, we've got a load coming on now in one go here. Let's see if I can move around so we can see them. Oh, I like to defend others. Struggle to respond. Vacant. Someone admitted that they sometimes feel vacant when they're under pressure. Oh, let's get rid of that one box. Less productive. We'll get that twice, I think. They're right. Yeah, we've got, this is great. Gosh, what an array, what a variety of different behaviours, feelings, responses. Doesn't this just show that we all kind of show up in a different way when we're under pressure? And you know what, I'm going to stop just maybe using the words just under pressure, because if we think about the reason we're feeling like this is because one of those 5 social domains is being threatened. Because if we just talk about under pressure, that is unique and different and individual to everybody. What I like about the SCARF model is it takes what previously has been for me this really difficult, how the hell do I make sure my people don't feel pressured? God, what is pressure? What does it mean? Because that's something different for each person. But the SCARF model kind of categorizes and gives us something a bit more tangible as managers to be able to deal with. We don't just then think about, gosh, how do I make sure I don't pressurize my people too much? Which can sometimes mean that we back off completely and not say or do anything. Yeah. But if we think about it in terms of SCARF, that's far more specific. That really helps us think about what can I do to mitigate the risk that my people may feel threatened or pressured. Because the sad fact is, as a manager, we cannot remove that threat, or we cannot remove the likelihood of someone feeling threatened. It will always be there. We will always have some pretty crappy news we've got to deliver to people. We'll always have to give them some feedback that they might not like. We can't stop that part of being a manager. But what we can do with the SCARF model is start to think about, well, what can I do to help mitigate the risk of somebody else feeling threatened? And how can I change my behaviour to mitigate that? Because again, if we're in this conversation, for a conversation to be effective, both parties have got to feel pretty good. You've got to feel good and confident. They've got to feel good and confident. But as managers, we can't change somebody else's behaviour. What we say to them, they just don't do what we want them to do sometimes. What we can do is manage our own behaviour to elicit a different response from somebody else. And that's what I really like about this SCARF model. It gives us a framework to work from and a place to start from. And I think the start point is knowing how we can respond under pressure. Because all of these things that are down on here, this is probably what other people are going to be responding to. And how many of these behaviours or responses have you come across when you're trying to have a difficult conversation with somebody? How many times have we seen this? And I'm going to be honest here. How many times have I seen this, and how many times have I got frustrated with that other person and then started to assume, well, they're only doing this because. They're only saying this because, oh God, that's totally unreasonable. And actually all we're seeing is a completely human response. And I think if we as, but even if we're not a manager in a situation, we as clever human beings, we want to get a good result from our conversation. Well, one, we can start to try to manage ourselves in a different way. But two, we can start to see behaviour as really what it could be, not what we feel it is. This could just be the person who's feeling under threat and feeling and is responding in a fight, flight or freeze way. So now we know this, what can we do? Because we want to have better conversations. So this takes a little bit of a practice, or not practice, planning. Just a bit of planning. But you know what? We're good people. We should know this. Knowing about the social domains and knowing about how some people find each of those social domains more or less impactful, and knowing how they might respond, we can take steps to minimise that risk of triggering that, of triggering a threat response. But it does mean knowing that person a little bit to start off with. But as managers and leaders, isn't that what we say we need to do? We need to try to know the people who work for us and adapt our style to get the best out of them. Well, specifically in this situation, this is what you do, I suppose. I want to start off with asking you to think about a person. It might be the person that you know you've got to have a difficult conversation with soon. It might be a person that you have interactions with regularly. It might be a person you've had nothing but difficult conversations with in the past. Think about a person. And I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to bring that person to mind. Get them in your mind. Think about how they may have previously responded. Think about what they say or do, maybe, or how they act. Can you think which of those 5 social domains may be more important to them? I'm just going to give you a few minutes silence just to consider this by yourself. Just an individual thinking exercise, and just jot down your notes. You don't have to share them. This is just for you. Think about a person. Think about how they've responded, and kind of backtrack and think why. What social domain do you think there might be important to them? Okay, just give you a last couple of seconds to think that through. Okay, thank you for doing that. So now you've got somebody in your mind. Hopefully that's now taken you a step further and think, oh yeah, staff, what social domain, what might be important to them? Now I want to do one last really practical exercise with you. So knowing about the model, knowing how you could respond, knowing and recognizing some of the behaviors that you display when you are feeling threatened, and now thinking about somebody else and trying to see the world through their eyes. That's good, but there it's the yeah, and so what? So if you know all of that, and I keep saying you can take steps to mitigate the risk, how do we actually do that? So I'm going to see if I can quickly share something with you. Look around one more time before I can do that. What I want to give you are some practical steps, well, actually, which you'll have seen briefly in the article, show you, give you a bit more chance to see this in more detail now. There we go. Let's get that nice and big. So what actually can we do as managers? What can we do more of? What can we do less of? Now, in this article and this slide, it's fairly generic, isn't it? Hopefully now that you've got your head a little bit more around the SCARF model and what it actually is and what it actually isn't. So we've got some generic do more, do less, but now you've got some people, some individuals in your mind right now. And all along, I've been encouraging you to think about an actual conversation that you know you're going to have or have had. I want you to hone right into that. For the last exercise, again, I'm going to pop you into pairs or threes and just ask you to work together, thinking about your particular situations and using this slide as a bit of a pointer. What specifically can you do? So what specifically could you say or avoid saying? Where specifically could you have that conversation? What specifically are you going to ask that person to do or not do? Just want you to have a couple of minutes to get into the specifics of your conversation. Unfortunately, people have talked about maybe redundancy conversations or whatever the example could be, but just to have the opportunity to take concepts and thoughts right into something a bit more specific. If you feel comfortable, share the situation that you're going to go into, the conversation you're going to have with your partner. If you don't worry, just talk about in generic terms. You could say something like, I need to have a performance conversation, I need to give feedback to somebody. The main thing is I want to give you the opportunity to quite frankly, plan and practice with a peer what you might say or not say, what you might do or not do, before you go in and actually have to have that conversation. Now, in the chat function, if you scroll back to the very top, you'll see two documents. I've put two formats. One is a JPEG and one is a PDF, depending on whatever's easiest for you to open. But it's this slide. So you can go into your pairs and have this slide in front of you. But what I want to do is to give you the opportunity to plan out, and maybe even down to the words you will use and words you won't use, and phrases you will and phrases you won't, to prepare for this conversation that you know you're going to have. So when you leave, you're not having that conversation for the first time. You'll have done a bit of practicing and have the benefit of bouncing it around with a peer or with a colleague as well. Okay, does everybody feel all right with that? If there's any questions before I send you off, maybe shout, because I can't see everybody at the moment. Oh, sent you in the wrong direction. Let's get back to the breakout rooms. So we'll recreate all rooms again. All right, let's see moved everybody around to get the chance to talk and deal with somebody else. I'm going to give you just 5 minutes. Go into your pairs, have a look in the chat function for that slide, and really get into a bit of planning and writing down what you're going to say and what you're not going to say. Okay, see you in a few minutes. Oh, I missed the chat. Okay.
Do more of. Oh, hi, Rhiannon.
Sorry, I just saw a couple of chats to say that you might or might not have got the slides. Just want to check.
Yeah.
You have?
No, we haven't. No.
No.
I've just popped it back in the chat function.
The chat function's empty on my side. I don't know about anyone else.
No,
There's nothing in the
chat.
chat function.
No? Okay. Yeah, it's not. I put it in there. It's
No.
not appearing.
Technical glitch.
No, nothing.
I have to be here for you to. I'm just going to try to load it one more time.
Oh, that's it.
Oh,
You've got it?
I can see that. Yeah,
Right.
I'm just downloading it.
Thank you.
So I've got it. If you're, I can share screen, can't I?
Right. I'll leave you guys to check the other tab as well. See you later.
okay, thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Let me
Thank
test
you.
sharing screen then.
Ooh.
Hiya. Sorry, ladies. I just wanted to check. Have you got the? Can you see the document in the chat function?
Oh no, we've not. No, but we've been talking about it, teacher.
No, I can only see that I'm confident, divine, and successful at the top. Oh no, I've got it now. It's just come through.
Now,
Yeah.
for some reason, I have to go into the breakout room, put it in the chat function there for everybody to see. So I'm going to leave you now and go on the
Right.
chat.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank
Have
you.
we got it?
Are you still recording?
Yeah, sorry, I'm barging in quickly. Can you see the document in the chat function?
No.
No.
I don't know why. It seems I have to be in the breakout room and load the document, and then you see it.
All right. Does that mean you have to stay with us?
No, I'll leave it.
Not that we're worried about you staying with us.
Can you see the document now?
Can I just do this?
Sorry, can you see the document now in the chat function?
Well, oh yes.
Yeah.
It's PDF actually. See if it it's just down. It's down. Oh no, I will be saving it if I do that. You're talking to a novice, Rhiannon. I'm sorry.
I'm going to leave to get to the next group.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Give away a little bit more time. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
What?
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Okay. It seems that unless I'm in the breakout room, people can't see the file that I'm loading in.
Oh.
So I'm just going to load it.
Fab, I can see it now.
Don't know why. Come off again, ladies. Sorry.
Oh,
Bye
okay.
bye.
I can't see it.
Oh, it'll come. I promise.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Let me get.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Rhiannon.
Sorry to gate crash quickly. It seems that unless I am in the breakout room, as I'm loading the file onto the chat, nobody can see it.
Ah.
So I'm hoping it's just now suddenly popped into your chat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've got it.
I've got it, yeah.
Don't know why. Sorry, I'll be off again.
Okay, bye.
Now she's like,
Things happen.
Sorry.
Hello.
Hiya.
For some reason, unless I am in the breakout room, when I load the document into the chat, no one can see it. So I have to be in the breakout room.
Okay. Did you know, Rhiannon, that it records the breakout rooms when you're in them?
Yes, I have
Good.
been
Okay.
pausing the recording while we're all on breakout.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
You should have it now, and I'm off.
Lovely. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hey, you're coming back again. Okay, so I've got the whiteboard again. Can you share your top tip? Share your thoughts, your ideas of what you're going to do, and just to see if anybody else has come up with an idea that you can take away, basically. So choose one or two at the most of your actions or your top tips to share with each other. Again, just try not to all start at the top left-hand side. Spread it over the screen. Contract up front and make sure you follow up. Yes. Oh, that's a good one. Be the first to bring up rather than them come to you. Yeah. Wise choice for a time and place. Yeah. Oh, it's all popping in now. Yeah, ask people for ideas so they feel part of the decision making. Critical, if like me, autonomy is a big deal for you. Don't tell me what to do. Let me think I've thought of it. There. We'll move around so we can all see. Self-reflection, yeah.
Oops, sorry about that.
Oh, I just popped that in the wrong place, didn't I? I like that one. Deal with your emotion before the meeting, yeah. Right. Wow, we've got loads gone up there. Let's make sure I still haven't. That's it. I think I've made it sensible and easy for everybody to see. Do so privately. Don't think of the obvious issue. Take into account things that be initially obvious, might not be initially obvious. Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Brilliant. So there's a whole screen there of great ideas. Now, with all of these whiteboards we've created, I'm saving them. So I will send these back to you. Because not only are they your ideas, but all of your peers, or everybody on the session today are sharing ideas with each other, which is far better. You're getting the benefit of everybody rather than just listening and hearing to me. So the last thing I just want you to think about is, I know we're talking about having difficult conversations, but I'll just leave this one for you to ponder. I wonder what other applications the SCARF model and your knowledge and understanding of that could have in your professional or your personal life. I wonder, just by knowing more about the SCARF, I wonder how that could help you in any other area as well, not just having difficult conversations. I'll let you ponder and think that one through. Right, let me save that slide. And that brought us to the end of this deep dive into SCARF and fight, flight and freeze, which collectively I would call creating a psychologically safe environment. So safety doesn't mean, you know, we're not fighting or beating anybody up, but safety from our cognitive and from our neuroscience perspective, that we feel we're in a safe place, because we're never going to have a great conversation if we don't feel like we're in a safe place. So here's the starting point, the foundations, creating a psychological safe environment. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to move on, and the next thing we're going to look at is, okay, when you're in the moment, how do you control these emotions and maybe your emotional outbursts, because you're going through the fight, flight and freeze as much as probably the other person is as well. So next week's learning is going to build on this and give you some models and some tools that you can use to control your emotion, which could be anger, temper, frustration, or just sheer upsettedness. How do you control that in emotion? And that's what we'll do next week. But just as a final, make sure that I end with a focus, as we talked about last week. I do want you all to really, the idea of spacing this out once per week, short, sharp topics, is that you put your learning into practice. That doesn't mean you have to go and have a difficult conversation, but I want you to really think, how can you apply your understanding now, your knowledge of SCARF and fight, flight, freeze, apply that sometime this week. I won't ask you to share all the gory details of it, but it'll be lovely if a couple of you will be happy just to share, because I better understood SCARF, I was able to look at the situation from this perspective. Really have that at the forefront. This is now the best time to make sure that you transfer your learning to the workplace. If you put into practice stuff that you've learned within 24, 36 hours of learning it, it's more likely to stick in your brain and start to become a habit. So I'm going to be really strict about this. Every week I'm going to say, apply your learning, because you're more likely going to use it again. Do something with your knowledge. Tomorrow morning, I'll send the same email or a very similar email as we did last week, but with some new learning materials all about managing your emotions in the moment. And as before, I'd like you to watch them, read them, and reflect on them. And next week, we'll have a different webinar, but in the same vein, when we put into practice those theories and those models that material has given you access to today. In the meantime, thank you very much. Really lovely to see you all here again. And hopefully we'll do the same thing this time next week.
Have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.